Hello everyone watching the channel. Today we're following one of the most extraordinary recovery operations Boeing has ever been involved in, where a heavy-lift CH-47 Chinook becomes the beating heart of a mission that sounds impossible on paper, raising a sunken cargo aircraft from the seafloor. Over days in open water, with dozens of people, strict safety choreography, and tons of specialized rigging, the team pulls off a sequence of tense, high-precision moves that turns the ocean itself into part of the story. From the first frames, the world opens on endless blue. Salvage ship Atlas holding position inside a buoy-marked grid, while the deck crew lays out taglines, slings, shackles, and chafe guards with methodical care. Then the Chinook appears overhead, its twin rotors hammering the air and whipping the sea into a bright circular boil around the ship. No music, no drama, just wind, waves, engine rumble, metal clinks, and the sound of work happening in real time. The helicopter circles, eases down, and touches the helideck. The steel deck shudders under its weight as crews crouch low and move with practiced discipline. A loadmaster checks the belly hook and release mechanism again and again, because at this scale, good enough doesn't exist. One missed pin or one crossed line can cost the entire operation. Beneath the surface, the ROV begins its descent, lights cutting through the blue into darkness until the shape of the wreck emerges, partly buried, corroded, and scarred by time. The robot drifts slowly, sweeping beams across ribs and fractured edges, searching for structure strong enough to take a lift. In the control container above, operators keep their hands steady on the joysticks, adjusting thrusters by millimeters. Every small motion matters when visibility can vanish in a cloud of silt. When the first sling is finally threaded beneath the fuselage and the shackle is seated, the surface team takes light tension. Careful, incremental, patient, because the seafloor doesn't give up heavy objects easily. The first true challenge is suction, sand gripping the wreck like concrete. That's where the Chinook becomes more than a presence. It becomes the active controller. On the surface, a small boat crew guides a floating bridle into the helicopter's hook. They crouch into spray and rotor wash, pulling taglines hand over hand to stop twist and drift. The pilot holds a precision hover, and the loadmaster watches the line angle like a hawk, calling corrections with subtle hand signals. Then the lift happens in pulses. Gentle upward force from the helicopter, steady haul from the ship's winch, and controlled buoyancy from lift bags introduced by the ROV until the wreck finally breaks free. Down below, sand boils into a thick cloud. Up above, the line straightens, the water churns, and the team feels the first unmistakable shift. Piece by piece, the aircraft begins to rise. A wing panel freed from rubble, a landing gear strut lifted clean, a heavy nacelle fragment coaxed up from the sand. Each recovery is its own small crisis: pendulum sway, spin risk, line chafe, clearance over hull edges, and each time the humans solve it with the same tools: patience, spacing, taglines, and timing. When a panel breaches the surface, water pours off in shining sheets, and the Chinook lifts it clear, just enough to reduce drag, while the boat crew controls yaw and the deck team prepares a padded cradle. The helicopter becomes the hero, not because it's loud or dramatic, but because it does the hardest job in the quietest way, holding tension, controlling attitude, and placing heavy, awkward loads with surgical precision. On deck, crews land each piece onto cribbing and rubber pads, then immediately clear slings, tighten chains, and rinse salt away with fresh water to slow corrosion. Everything is purposeful. A chafe guard slipped into place, a strap tightened with a measured pull, a supervisor's hand resting briefly on a winch operator's shoulder to slow the tempo when the load spikes. The climax arrives when the last major fuselage segment finally releases from the seafloor. Lift bags stabilizing, the ship winch hauling, the Chinook hovering in micro-corrections through gusts until the segment surges upward and breaks the surface in a cascade. For a moment, it's just physics and teamwork. Heavy metal, falling water, taut lines, and human hands pulling taglines in sync to prevent a roll that could undo everything. Once the final transfer is complete and the segment settles onto the deck beside the other recovered pieces, the mood shifts. Not to celebration, but to a controlled exhale. The ROV returns for a last sweep of the seafloor, confirming the crater is cleared. The ocean floor looks almost peaceful again, as if it's already trying to erase the storm. Back on the surface, the Chinook begins a new role, moving recovered components from ship to barge and later from dock to staging yard, keeping the operation moving and the deck safe. In port, dock cranes take over the heaviest offloads, while the helicopter continues rapid transfers to reduce congestion. Wing panel to yard cradle, nacelle to padded rack, each placement guided by crouched crews, taglines, and one clean hook release at a time. The convoy heads to a forensic hangar, and the tone becomes quieter but no less intense. Inside, technicians lay out the recovered sections like a massive three-dimensional puzzle, aligning fractures and interfaces, scanning surfaces with laser dot patterns, probing metal thickness, photographing edges with blank placards, and sealing smaller components in evidence bags with tags that say nothing, because the story is in the material itself. The Chinook is inspected post-mission too. Hooks checked for wear, tie-downs tightened, panels wiped clean of salt, and the last safety cover snapped into place with a final, satisfying click. As the hangar doors roll down and daylight narrows to a thin stripe, the operation resolves into a single feeling: respect for the ocean, for the aircraft's history, and for the people who refuse to leave it buried. Outside, the Chinook becomes a distant silhouette crossing bright sky, its rotor thump fading into wind as the sea returns to its steady rhythm. If you've made it to this moment, thank you for watching. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the machines, the methods, and the human precision that makes impossible recoveries like this real.